They won't always say it out loud. People are constantly learning how to treat you by watching what you allow, what you accept, what you defend, and what you let slip by in silence. It starts subtly, a joke that makes you uncomfortable, but you laugh it off. A promise broken, but you say, "It's okay, I understand." A raised voice, a forgotten birthday, a need dismissed. One after another, these moments gather like quiet raindrops, until one day you wake up soaked in someone else's disregard, wondering how it got this far. But it didn't start with them. It started with you. Not because you deserved it. No, not ever because of that, but because somewhere along the way you taught the world how to treat you by how you treated yourself. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you showed up for yourself like you show up for others? When was the last time you said no without apologizing? When was the last time you held your own boundary, not because you were angry, but because you were finally at peace? You see, we don't just communicate with words. We communicate with the energy we carry, with the standards we set, and with the silence we keep. And the world, people, they listen to all of it. Every time you let someone cross a line without consequence, you draw that line a little lighter. Every time you swallow your truth to keep the peace, you teach others that your voice is negotiable. Every time you choose comfort over confrontation, you tell the world, "I'm okay being second to myself." And maybe you are kind, maybe you are patient, maybe you are endlessly understanding. But let me say this with all the quiet strength I can muster. Kindness without boundaries is self-betrayal in disguise. Love without self-respect is not love. It is longing, dressed up as devotion. You don't need to become harsh, you don't need to scream or make demands, but you do need to decide, what is the standard of treatment I will no longer live below? Because what you tolerate today becomes the expectation tomorrow. And here's the truth no one really teaches us growing up. People are not mind readers. And even good hearts can cause harm if you never show them where it hurts. So if you want to be treated with care, you must care for yourself out loud. If you want to be respected, you must stop giving out discounts on your dignity. If you want to be loved deeply, you must stop settling for shallow versions of affection just to feel something. It is not selfish to expect better. It is sacred. It is not rude to correct someone who has crossed a line. It is responsible. It is not cruel to walk away from someone who keeps showing you they won't learn. It is self-preservation. The world will mirror back to you the lessons you consistently teach it. So teach with clarity. Teach with self-respect. Teach with your actions, your tone, your choices. Teach gently, but teach. You are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are not asking for too much. You are simply remembering what you should have never forgotten, that how others treat you begins with how you teach them. And sometimes the first lesson is this: I will no longer teach through silence. Because silence isn't always peace. And peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict. It comes from honoring your own soul enough to speak, to stand, and when needed, to walk. And when you begin to live like that, not loud but true, the world around you begins to shift. People either rise to meet your standard, or fade away because they cannot. Both are answers. So live in a way that makes your value unmistakable. Not just to others but to yourself, over and over again, quietly, consistently, unapologetically. And never forget this: the world is listening. Life principles to remember: what you allow teaches others what you expect. There's a quiet truth that life whispers to us again and again, if we're still enough to hear it. People learn how to treat you, not by what you say but by what you allow. Not what you hope for, not what you explain, not even what you demand. What you allow. Think of your life like a home with invisible walls. Every time someone steps in with their words, their tone, their intentions, they learn something about the boundaries of that space. If they leave a mess and you clean it up silently, they assume it's okay. If they enter uninvited and you don't say a word, they assume they're welcome. If they break something and you forgive without consequence, they may never even realize it mattered. We teach others how to treat us by the patterns we reinforce. Not always intentionally, but undeniably. Have you ever let someone repeatedly interrupt you thinking it was just their personality? Have you ever laughed at a joke that cut too deep because you didn't want to seem sensitive? Have you ever stayed quiet when something in your soul wanted to say no more? That's where it begins. Not in the big betrayals, but in the tiny allowances, the moments we choose comfort over confrontation, peace over truth, harmony over self-respect. And here's the hard truth. People aren't always malicious. Most aren't trying to hurt you, but if you don't show them where the line is, how will they know when they've crossed it? This isn't about becoming hard or bitter. It's about becoming clear. It's about saying, here is how I deserve to be spoken to. Here is how I wish to be handled when I'm vulnerable. Here is what I will no longer accept, not because I'm angry, but because I've learned. You may worry that drawing those lines will push people away, but here's something most people discover the hard way. The people who truly value you will adjust. And the ones who leave were only staying because you let them take more than they gave. Boundaries don't ruin relationships. They reveal them. There's a kind of quiet power in realizing you begin to see that your energy is sacred, not just to protect, but to direct, that your time, your peace, your self-respect, they're not things to be bargained for affection. They're the standard by which all love must arrive. Ask yourself, what have I been silently allowing that contradicts what I truly want? Where have I been lowering my standard in the name of keeping someone close? When did I start calling disrespect tolerance, just to avoid being alone? This isn't about blame. It's about awakening. It's about finally choosing yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a necessary one. You were never meant to be a doormat for someone else's unhealed behavior. You were meant to be a mirror, showing others how love, respect, and kindness look when they're real. So the next time you wonder why someone treats you a certain way, don't just look at them. Look at the pattern. Look at what you've been silently agreeing to. Because what you allow, those small, often invisible agreements, teach others what you expect. And what you expect sets the tone for what you receive. Change what you allow, and you'll change what you attract. Kindness without boundaries becomes quiet resentment. There is a kind of kindness that wears a smile, but bleeds on the inside. It says yes when the heart is weary. It offers help when the soul is empty. It listens, carries, gives, and gives. Not because it's full, but because it's afraid not to. And for a while it looks like love. It feels noble, selfless, even spiritual. But deep beneath that gentle exterior, something starts to shift. Not loudly, but steadily. A quiet bitterness grows in the corners of the heart. The kind that doesn't rage but sighs. The kind that doesn't explode but slowly erodes. That is the shadow of boundaryless kindness, and its name is resentment. It doesn't arrive overnight. It comes like fog, slowly, softly, until the road ahead becomes hard to see. You start to feel misunderstood, unseen, used even, but you keep giving, because you believe that's what good people do. But here's the question no one dares to ask. Who taught you that being good meant being invisible? You see, true kindness has edges. It doesn't say yes out of guilt. It doesn't give when it has nothing left. It knows how to say, not right now. I love you, but I need me to. But many of us were raised on the myth that to be kind is to never say no. And so we offer our time to those who don't value it. We offer our energy to those who drain it. We become the shoulder, the fixer, the one who always understands, until we begin to lose sight of our own needs, our own voice. Have you ever felt that? That quiet ache of being everyone's anchor, while secretly drowning? It's not unkind to need space. It's not rude to protect your energy. It's not selfish to say, I cannot carry this for you today. Because here's the truth. Real kindness must start inward. If it doesn't, it's not truly love. It's performance. A way to earn worth by becoming indispensable. But you don't need to earn your place by exhausting yourself. You don't need to shrink so others can feel big. You don't need to bleed just to prove your heart is open. Kindness with boundaries says, I care about you, but I care about me too. I'm here for you, but not at the cost of myself. I'll walk beside you, but I won't abandon myself to do it. The world will not teach you this. It will applaud your self-sacrifice. It will praise your willingness to do it all. But when you burn out, when your resentment starts to leak into your words, your mood, your silence, the same world will wonder what happened. So let me ask you gently, Where in your life are you overextending out of fear? Where are you giving more than you're able, not out of love, but out of habit? Who have you taught to expect your yes, even when it costs you peace? Because you are not meant to be the ground others walk on. You are meant to walk with them, whole, steady and true to yourself. You can be kind and honest, soft and strong, giving and guarded. That is not contradiction. That is wisdom. You do not need to abandon your compassion to find peace. You only need to let your kindness be guided by clarity, by limits, by love. Not just for others but for yourself. So the next time you feel that quiet resentment stirring, don't ignore it. It's not your failure. It's your soul whispering, "There's a line here, please protect it." Because when kindness has no edges, it dissolves. But when it's anchored in self-respect, it heals. Let your kindness be full but never hollow. Let it shine but not at the cost of burning out. Because the world needs your light, but it needs it steady, not flickering from exhaustion. Respect begins where your self-neglect ends. You can't ask the world to value you while you continue to devalue yourself in silence. Respect doesn't start in someone else's voice, it begins in the way you speak to yourself when no one's listening. And yet for many of us, we spend years trying to earn the respect of others while quietly betraying ourselves. We overwork. We overgive. We let the needs of others sit in the front seat while ours ride in the trunk. We say, "It's fine," when it's not. We put up with being overlooked, talked over, pushed aside, hoping that one day someone will notice how much we've sacrificed. But here's the unspoken truth. People don't respect self-abandonment. They grow accustomed to it. They see you bend and they assume you're flexible. They see you carry the weight and they assume you're built for it. They see you put yourself last and they assume you prefer it that way. Because you've never shown them otherwise. Ask yourself gently, what have I been silently teaching others by the way I treat myself? You see, the world mirrors your inner posture. If you walk through life apologizing for your presence, the world will agree. If you constantly defer your worth to other people's approval, the world will take its time deciding. If you set yourself on fire to keep others warm, the world won't thank you. It'll simply ask for more matches. But when you stop neglecting yourself, when you begin even quietly to honor your own needs, something shifts. You start walking differently. You start speaking with a kind of stillness that doesn't need volume to be heard. You start saying no, not with anger, but with certainty. And the world takes notice. Because respect isn't requested, it's reflected. Think of a tree in a storm. The deeper its roots, the more firmly it stands. It doesn't shout. It doesn't sway for every wind. It holds. It knows its place. That's what self-respect looks like. Not arrogance. Not pride. Just grounded clarity. But the path to it often begins in a hard place. The moment you realize you've been your own afterthought for too long. It's the moment you say, "I'm tired of betraying myself just to be liked. I'm tired of agreeing to things that deplete me. I'm tired of being the reliable one, the responsible one, the understanding one, while I understand myself less and less." That is the end of self-neglect and the beginning of true respect. And yes, it will be uncomfortable at first. People may resist your new boundaries. They may question the new version of you, who doesn't tolerate being spoken down to, who doesn't say yes so quickly, who doesn't apologize for wanting rest, space, or more. But don't let their confusion distract you from your clarity, because the more consistently you honor yourself, the less permission others will have to dishonor you. Respect is not about control. It's about alignment. It's about becoming so rooted in your own value that others feel it without you needing to say a word. And when someone treats you with disrespect, it's not just a reflection of them. It's a chance for you to choose yourself. Not out of revenge, but out of reverence. You deserve that. You've always deserved that. So if you want people to respect you, stop waiting for them to start. Begin where it matters most. Within. Speak to yourself with kindness. Care for your needs like they matter, because they do. Stop dismissing your own voice in the name of keeping peace. That's not peace. That's self-erasure. Remember, Respect isn't something you chase. It's something you embody. And once you do, you'll find it in others. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence now insists on it. Your silence sets the stage for how others speak to you. Silence is not always golden. Sometimes silence is agreement. Sometimes silence is surrender. Sometimes silence is the unspoken permission that teaches others exactly how far they can go. You may not raise your voice. You may not argue. You may even smile through the discomfort. But every time you stay quiet when something within you wants to speak, a script is being written, and you are not the one holding the pen. Words matter, yes. But what matters more is what you don't say when you should. That's where people learn how to treat you. They learn whether your boundaries are suggestions or non-negotiables. They learn whether your kindness is strength or submission. They learn whether your silence is calm or compliant. Let me ask you gently. How many times have you allowed a disrespectful tone, a cutting remark, or a subtle dismissal, and said nothing? Not because it didn't hurt, but because you didn't want to cause a scene, because you didn't want to be too sensitive, because it felt safer to keep the peace than to risk being misunderstood. But here's the quiet cost of that choice. Every time you silence yourself to protect someone else's comfort, you slowly begin to lose your own. It's not always about confrontation. It's about clarification. It's about saying, please don't speak to me that way. That joke wasn't funny. I didn't appreciate how that felt. Not because you want to escalate anything, but because you're teaching the world how to speak your name. With care, with dignity, with consideration. You are not hard to talk to. You are not overly emotional. You are not asking for too much. You are simply asking for the kind of communication that doesn't cost your soul to receive. Silence can be graceful yet, but when it comes at the expense of your self-worth, it is no longer a virtue. It's a sacrifice. And you weren't put here to shrink. You weren't born to be polite at the cost of being heard. Think of a stage. When the lights dim and the microphone is off, the audience still forms an impression. They watch. They assume. They interpret. That's what your silence does. It creates a stage where others fill in the blanks, and not always in your favor. So what would happen if you chose to speak, not with aggression, not with drama, but with quiet certainty? What would shift if you let your voice protect the parts of you that have been bruised too often by passivity? People may be surprised. They may say you've changed. But the truth is you're returning to the self that always knew how to speak but was trained to whisper. You don't have to explain everything. You don't owe a TED Talk on your boundaries. But your words, short, kind, and clear, are enough, because when you speak with calm conviction, you don't just defend your dignity. You invite others to meet you at that same level. You raise the conversation. You shift the energy. You draw a line that says, this is where I begin, and I will not disappear again. So the next time silence tempts you to keep the peace, ask yourself, what kind of peace am I protecting? One that quiets conflict, or one that honors truth? Because true peace cannot grow in the soil of self-erasure. Let your voice return. Let it be gentle. Let it be firm. Let it be yours. And with every word you'll begin to rewrite the script. Not just for how others speak to you, but for how you speak to yourself. Love without standards is not love. It's permission for mistreatment. Love is not just what you feel. It's what you allow. It's not just the butterflies, or the chemistry, or the comfort. It's the boundaries you set within it, the standards you hold, the lines you draw, not to push someone away, but to keep both people from losing themselves. But too often we mistake surrender for love. We confuse tolerating pain with proving loyalty. We romanticize sacrifice, calling it strength. We stay quiet when we should speak, and call that forgiveness. We endure mistreatment, hoping it will turn into transformation. But love without standards doesn't teach someone how to love you. It teaches them that you'll stay no matter how they treat you. And slowly you begin to disappear inside the very relationship you once prayed for. Ask yourself gently, Where have I called something love that no longer feels like care? Where have I bent so far just to keep someone close? I no longer recognize myself. Love should not cost your peace. It should not blur your sense of worth. It should not require you to accept what hurts just to feel held. Standards are not walls. They are doors. They are the quiet structure that allows love to grow rather than consume. Think of a garden. If you don't fence it, weeds take root. If you don't tend it, it overgrows. If you don't protect the soil, the roots decay. Love is the same. It needs care, not just emotion, but intention, not just presence, but respect. And respect is born from standards. It says you may be hurting, but I won't let your hurt bleed into me. You may be learning, but I won't be your lesson at the cost of my well-being. I will stay, but not if staying means abandoning myself. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. Because what we accept in the name of love becomes the blueprint for how we are loved. And no matter how deeply someone claims to care for you, if their love asks you to be smaller, quieter, less, it is not love. It is attachment. Possession, fear in disguise. You were not made to earn your place by tolerating pain. You were made to be met, fully, kindly, wholly, by someone willing to rise to your standard, not drag you beneath theirs. It's true, when you raise your standards, you may lose some people, but those who leave were only staying because your silence protected their comfort. And those who remain, or arrive, will meet you in a way that doesn't hurt to hold. So let love be warm, but let it also be wise. Let it flow, but give it form. Let it speak, but teach it how to listen. Because without standards, love becomes lawless. And lawless love may feel passionate for a moment, but it leaves scars that take years to heal. Love is not a test of how much pain you can endure. It's a place where two souls honor each other's humanity, and neither has to disappear to feel safe. So raise your standard, not out of pride but out of promise. A promise to yourself that your heart is worthy of more than survival. It is worthy of peaceful, present, mutual love. Let that be your measure. Teaching others how to treat you starts by showing them how you treat yourself. People don't learn how to treat you by reading your mind. They learn by watching you. Watching how you carry yourself, how you speak about yourself, how you care for yourself when no one else is around. You teach the world your value by the way you show up for yourself when it would be easier to disappear. We often believe that boundaries are something we set with others, but the first, and perhaps most important boundary is the one we set within. The one that says, I will no longer abandon myself in the name of being liked. Because here's the truth. No one will treat you better than you treat yourself. Not consistently. Not sustainably. If you neglect your needs, others will too. If you talk down to yourself, others will follow suit. If you sacrifice your peace for approval, approval will become the price of every connection you have. But when you begin to treat yourself with care, real, active, visible care, the people around you can feel it. You don't even have to announce it. There's a shift in the way you walk into a room, a calm in your voice, a presence in your decisions, and it becomes harder, much harder, for others to disregard what you so clearly honor. Ask yourself, what do my habits say about my self-worth? Do I rest when I need rest? Or do I push through to meet expectations? Do I speak to myself with gentleness or criticism? Do I nourish my body, mind, and spirit? Or do I only show up when others are watching? Because people aren't just watching what you demand. They're watching what you demonstrate. You can say, I want to be respected. But if you ignore your own needs and stay where you're constantly hurt, the message gets lost. You can say, I want to be loved deeply. But if you love yourself with conditions, others will think they must too. You can say, I want to be heard. But if you silence your truth to avoid discomfort, others will speak over you and never notice what they've missed. That's the power of example, the power of quiet self-leadership. And no, this doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean you never fall short, or have moments of doubt. We all do. But it means you return to yourself, with kindness, with consistency, with conviction. It means you stop waiting for someone else to choose you, and begin choosing yourself, again and again. until it's no longer a performance but a pattern. There is something magnetic about someone who knows their worth and lives like it. They don't have to chase. They don't have to beg. Their presence teaches people. This is how I treat myself. If you want to be here, meet me there. And not everyone will. Some will walk away. Some will try to test your resolve. Some will even call your self-respect too much. But that's only because your self-honor threatens the parts of them still hidden behind masks. Let them go. Let them misunderstand. Because what's more important than being liked is being aligned with your truth, your values, your wholeness. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for protecting. Speak to yourself like someone you love. Show up for yourself like someone whose life matters. Because it does. And in time, the world will learn. Not because you forced it. Not because you fought for it. But because you became it. You became the standard. The example. The mirror. And the way others treated you had no choice but to follow.